Welcome to Around the Weird. Here's your host, the museum curator of the strange and unusual, Mr. Nothing.
Thank you, Mysterious Voice, and welcome back to Around the Weird, a booktube channel where I talk about all the unusual and out of the ordinary literature that I found in my travels. Today it is Poetry Thursday, so I wanted to talk about an interesting poetry that I stumbled upon, or not stumbled upon, but really searched out because I wanted to highlight a familiar author today. Today's poem is all about change and new worlds. I am referring to A Map to the Next World by Joy Harjo. I've talked about Joy Harjo on this channel before, so I don't need to go in that great of detail, but Joy Harjo is an indigenous American writer who's been writing for 20, 30 years. They've written a number of books of poetry, they've written music, and they've written anthologies and other sorts of things like that. They're a really quality writer. I would say I'm very attracted to their poetry, being that it's a lot about the world around us and people and various ideas like that. Also, it's strongly connected to her native heritage. She's as a member of the Muskogee, so it always sort of speaks to me and seems like there's a larger meaning that she's sort of talking about there. So without further ado, let's talk about this poem, A Map to the Next World. I will read it, do a little bit of analysis, and we will move on from there. A Map to the Next World. In the last days of the fourth world, I wished to make a map for those who would climb through the hole in the sky. My only tools were the desires of humans as they emerged from the killing fields, from the bedrooms and the kitchens. For the soul is a wanderer with many hands and feet. The map must be of sand and can't be read by ordinary light. It must carry fire to the next tribal town for renewal of spirit. In the legend are instructions on the language of the land, how it was we forgot to acknowledge the gift, as if we were not in it or of it. Take note of the proliferation of supermarkets and malls, the altars of money. They best describe the detour from grace. Keep track of the errors of our forgetfulness. The fog steals our children while we sleep. Flowers of rage spring up in the depression. Monsters are born there of nuclear anger. Trees of ashes wave goodbye to goodbye, and the map appears to disappear. We no longer know the names of the birds here, how to speak to them by their personal names. Once we knew everything in this lush promise. What I am telling you is real and is printed in a warning on the map. Our forgetfulness stalks us, walks the earth behind us, leaving a trail of paper diapers, needles, and wasted blood. An imperfect map will have to do, little one. The place of entry is the sea of your mother's blood, your father's small death as he longs to know himself in another. There is no exit. The map can be interpreted through the wall of the intestine, a spiral on the road of knowledge. You will travel through the membrane of death, smell cooking from the encampment where our relatives make a feast of fresh deer meat and corn soup in the Milky Way. They have never left us. We abandoned them for science. And when you take your next breath as we enter the fifth world, there will be no X, no guidebook with words you can carry. You will have to navigate by your mother's voice, renew the song she is singing. Fresh courage glimmers from planets, and lights the map printed with the blood of history, a map you will have to know by your intention, by the language of suns. When you emerge, note the tracks of the monster slayers where they entered the cities of artificial light and killed what was killing us. You will see red cliffs, they are the heart, contain the ladder. A white deer will greet you when the last human climbs from the destruction. Remember the hole of shame marking the act of abandoning our tribal grounds. We were never perfect. Yet the journey we make together is perfect on this earth who was once a star and made the same mistakes as humans. We might make them again, she said. Crucial to finding your way is this. There is no beginning or end. You must make your own map. So that was A Map to the Next World by Joy Harjo, a really fascinating poem. In terms of narrative, I believe it's just a narrator describing the process of moving from the previous world, one that where we've forgotten how to truly live. We've forgotten the names of birds. We've fallen into depression and nuclear anger. We've forgotten how to do the basic stuff. We forgot what the ancestors told us, according to Joy Harjo. Moving to the next world where hopefully we can absorb all that information again and begin anew, and not live in a life where we've abandoned what has worked before to science or something like that. And so essentially what this poem is about is regeneration, renewal, resurrection. It's understanding that the old world has failed in some way, that we have failed it. That comes up early in the poem when the narrator says, "Take notes of the proliferation of supermarkets and malls, the altars of money. They best describe the detour from grace. Keep track of the errors of our forgetfulness. The fog steals our children while we sleep." Which is a pretty heavy thing to say. But it's essentially saying that we care too much about money and science, the bad aspects of science, and our world has sort of become poisoned as a result, which is definitely true. If you look around, this love of capitalism and money and all sorts of things like that, and the disposable goods has sort of polluted the world and also caused a great deal of suffering and poverty. So I think what the narrator is trying to say is we needed to move beyond that, and it's important to note that like this new world, like there's no easy way to get there. Like it's going to take a long while. We have to navigate by our mother's voice, as they say. And when you take your next breath as we enter the fifth world, there will be no X, no guidebook with words you can carry. Which is an interesting note. It's like you got to make your own way. You got to decide if this is the world that you want to live in, if this is what feels right. But you have to be careful in your decision because we don't want to end up with a world that didn't work before. Specifically, they say we entered the fifth world. There's a lot of Native American lore throughout the different cultures where they talk about the different worlds and how there will be another world beyond this world, sort of prophesizing an apocalypse of sorts, just acknowledging that this world isn't perfect and there's always time for rebirth and renewal. A lot of cultures have rebirth myths and stuff like that. There's no simple Christian apocalypse that's coming for us. There's going to be a time where things fall apart and we have to rebuild them and build them in a better manner. And it's not going to be easy. We have to make our own map. There is no beginning or end, as they say. It's just continuous. There might be a world after that one and a world after that one until we finally make a point or get to a point where we've created a strong, beautiful world. But even that strong, beautiful world, it can be prone to errors and whatnot. So there's always more that can be done, I think, is what Harjo is trying to say with this poem. Anyway, those are my thoughts on A Map to the Next World by Joy Harjo. A solid poem from a solid poet. I always love reading her poetry. It always sort of strikes me, and I feel the passion and the wonder that she has in her poems. So I definitely recommend you seek it out. I will put a link to it in the description. Let me know your thoughts in the comments if you think my review is spot on or if you think it's completely wrong. Otherwise, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe so that more people can find out about this poet or this poem if they don't already know. And other than that, I wish you the best of luck in your weird and next world-related travels. Farewell.